Hello and welcome to Trojan Talk. I'm your host, Aaron Taylor. My guest today is Craig Pittman, the special guest at this year's Journalism Symposium at Troy University. Craig, thanks for joining me here today.
My pleasure.
And as I mentioned, you were here for the Journalism Symposium.
Yes.
Returning to your alma mater, an opportunity to share your knowledge to the next generation of journalists out there. First off, just how did it feel to be asked back and be a part of this?
Well, it was nice, and at first I was afraid it was just a ruse to get me here to pay off my parking fines, but no, it was great, and particularly great interacting with a lot of the student journalists. They had really good questions that they wanted to ask me, and it was interesting to hear about the stories that they're working on now and sort of the different approaches that they take to things now. I mean, you know, we had no internet, much less any social media when I was here, and that's now a big part of the things that they cover. So that was really fascinating too.
And of course, one of the things that your topic was being the most destructive man on campus
Yes.
that when you were here, when you worked for the Metropolitan. But talk a little bit, I guess, how your start from here got you to where you are right now, and what that means to being able to share that story with the students now.
Well, I mean, the idea is, you know, and I put this in in all my bios, that when I was here, the dean of the journalism school told me I was the most destructive force on campus, and I don't think he meant it as a compliment. But in a way, it was, though, because what we were doing, the stories we were doing for the student paper, were destroying this image, this false image of everything was fine at the university, and instead we were pointing out, hey, the university president's under investigation by the State Ethics Commission. They're cutting teacher salaries and meanwhile maintaining a yacht for lobbying legislators. I mean, and there were drug busts in the dorms and all kinds of stuff going on. And so by reporting on those things, we really were destroying things. We were destroying this image that all is well and everyone remained calm, and instead saying, hey, there's some stuff here that's going on that you probably want to know about.
And I'll say, but from those not so humble beginnings, you've made your way to one of the biggest papers in the nation, and as an environmental reporter, an author, so you've made a pretty good leap up to the top. And so how does someone get to that point, and how does that prepare you with your time here at the journalism school?
Well, the big thing I learned is that words really matter. I mean, we were writing these stories in this little podunk student paper, but it was really getting attention, and to the point where the university cut off our funding trying to stop us, and that drew the attention of newspapers from around the state. And so suddenly this little podunk paper and the things we were doing were statewide news, and that really showed me that that words matter, that facts matter, and if you report the truth, then you will be doing what you're supposed to be doing, regardless of the impact that may have on powerful people who may get angry at you. You know, the truth may set you free, but you may tick off some people too. And that was a good lesson to learn, and so I have continued to try to apply that throughout my career, is to remember that, you know, words matter, but also you need to have the goods. You need to have the receipts, as they say. And so we, you know, always make sure you document the things that you say before you put them in print. And that's an important lesson too.
Well, I'm saying, and it's not all making people angry.
No.
You also, there's some entertaining parts of it, and that's including the book that you've just written.
Yes.
Humorous stories about, you know, probably the butt of all jokes, the state of Florida.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Well, and the point of my book is, we all laugh about that stuff, and I actually call Florida not the Sunshine State, but the Punchline State, but also make the point that there's a lot more going on there than just, you know, a guy throwing an alligator through a Wendy's drive-through and a guy punching a swan, but there's also things that happen there that have influenced the rest of the country, often without them knowing it. For instance, you know, we laugh about Florida Man, you know, Florida Man does this or that, but the list of Florida men includes John Adanasoff, who invented the first computer and grew up in Polk County. A Florida man taught Ray Charles to play the piano. Billy Graham got called to preach on an abandoned golf course in Florida. So, you know, things happen in Florida, laws are passed or events occur there, and it's sort of a precursor or a leading indicator for the way things are going to go in the rest of the country.
And as a journalist and an author, which one would you say that you fit more into? Are you still just a journalist? Are you an author? Are you a little bit of both?
Well, I always tell people I've never been anything more than a beat reporter, and that means they often beat up on me. But I cover the environment beat. I get lots of stories off of that, and there's a lot of environmental stuff in oh, Florida, but I couched it in different terms so people may not realize it. You know, there's a whole section in there on Florida springs, but I sort of illustrate that by pointing out that in Florida we have a spring that is a state park where mermaids perform. And so we are the only state where the list of government jobs includes mermaid, which has led to some interesting conversations about the use of taxpayer funds to buy waterproof lipstick and shell bras. So, you know, I can make people laugh, but also in the meantime educate them about springs and the perils they face and that kind of stuff.
Well, and the stories were interesting, and the speech that you gave at the symposium was interesting.
Thank you.
In of itself. And here's hoping that people maybe get a chance to check out your book, Oh Florida, and hear some of these funny stories and learn a little bit as well. So thanks for joining us here today.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us on today's edition of Trojan Talk.